Hello, Alice here again from Creative Tea Breaks, and today we are chatting running your own creative business. And we have the wonderful and delicious, vibey illustrator, Adriana Danaila, who is leading us through this conversation today. Adriana is a super talented illustrator, but she also has a background in business and economics. So she knows how to run her stuff. And this is a great one to listen to if you're thinking about where to start your freelance career, or you've been freelancing for a while and you just want some guidance on how to make stuff feel a little bit more aligned, rewarding, financially abundant, and in line with the life that you want to live. It's a super good chat. I absolutely loved just talking through everything from money to menstrual cycle to mindset. And I hope that you take loads of good stuff from this as well. Enjoy. So I'm Alice from Creative Tea Breaks. I'm a creative well-being facilitator and someone that is very interested in getting into illustration. And I have Adriana Danaila joining me today. Did I say that right?
Danaila, but it's a pretty difficult.
Adriana Danaila joining me
Yes.
today,
Yeah.
who is an illustrator with a digital nomad lifestyle. She's currently living in Bucharest, Romania, and she is all about bright and vibrant illustrations. And we connected recently on LinkedIn, and Adriana is one of those people that is also bringing lots of vibrance and um, I think I would say like genuine conversation to LinkedIn, which is very welcome and very, very lovely. So I approached Adriana because I'm thinking about expanding out into the world of illustration, and I really just vibed with her when I was tagged in one of her posts by another friend on LinkedIn. But as soon as we started talking, it became quite apparent that there was another reason that you're having such good success within your business, and this is to do with your background. So to start off with, we're just going to touch on this, and then we'll come to all of the vibrance and talent and illustration stuff after. So you studied business and economics, is that right?
Yes. And that's why
Yeah.
I love to say this, that is like the perfect or the best, degree to get for artists in general. Because I think that making art is pretty easy somehow if you start to honing the craft, you have something in you that want to, be brought to light. And actually what's difficult is making money from your art, making this a sustainable lifestyle. So that's why you need to force yourself that knowledge. So yeah, studying like in a academic and a more rigid kind of structure, like in college, I think forced me into getting that information inside my head, which I don't think I would have, otherwise.
Yeah, because art in itself is quite a natural expression. Like people have been doing art since people have existed, even in terms of just making sounds and communicating with each
Yeah.
other. Whereas business, strategy, capitalism, money, all of this stuff is
Yeah.
quite a different kind of construct that we've brought in. So how have you set up your business, and how did this education help you set up your business so that it makes sense with kind of money, time, lifestyle, and also joy is something that we talked about before. So making sure that you've got this balance between work and life. Um, yeah, could you kind of talk us through that a
Yeah.
little bit to start off
First
with?
of all, yeah, I want to say that I never had this balance from the beginning. It's something you just, learn to own it on the way. And to be honest, when I started this freelance journey, I started for money. I was really money oriented because I lived in a family that didn't really do it that well with money, and I had to work from a very early age to support some of my family's spendings. So I knew I didn't want to have this kind of life, to have a 9 to 5 that I hate, just to, to make like the little money I did in Eastern Europe. I mean, there weren't so many opportunities. So when I stumbled across freelance platforms, I was really, focused on making money. So from the start, I wasn't really into getting validation from my art or expressing myself through my art, because I was already doing that in my private time and my, private and personal projects. So I think when I came with that mindset to this industry, it really helped me focus more on the client and their needs more than what I wanted from, from this transaction to tell it, let's call it like that. So from the beginning, I tried to look to find that, sweet spot of what I can do and what my skills are and what actually the market needs. And that's a like very, very basic economic strategy. That's like the basics of all. So that's how this really influenced how I approach this. And later on, I started realizing that there are stuff that I like to do and stuff that I don't like to do. And I started to think, how can I make the stuff that I like to do, uh, paid more. And that's how I learned about licensing, because at the beginning I was working on an hourly basis and I thought that more work means more money. That was the also the mindset around me at that point. But then when I started to, I went into burnout also, and I started to hate illustration, to hate my life. Like, what am I doing here? Do I even like doing this anymore? Then I learned about licensing and how you actually need to ask for the value you bring through your work, not the amount of hours you put in. So that's when
Hmm.
that, clicked into my mind, like, oh, okay. And I started only taking fixed price contracts. I never, do any hourly work anymore. And I started, yeah, scaling it up. And one thing that I did was I never say no, but I never say no, like if it's a project that I don't think I like, or it takes like a lot of time, or it's like really boring. Instead of saying no, I would just ask for an absurd, amount of money. Because if it's going to be, yeah, worth it, I mean, at least make some money out of it. And actually, this was like amazing, because I realized that a lot of things, like a lot of money that it seemed absurd to me, is not that absurd in the client's mind. So this really helped me, like, upscale and really ask for more, because I realized it was more only in my head.
And maybe you can talk us through that transition from thinking about working on an hourly rate to then doing this thing where you have a fixed price, um, and how you kind of decided even what your hourly rate was going to be and then what your fixed price was going to be, and how you did that from like a somebody that has a business mindset point of view. Because I think a lot of us sit down and we try to figure out these prices, and there's a lot of self-criticism and kind of self-consciousness that's involved because it's difficult to value yourself. But then you really have to know, if you're putting in this many hours, you're going to get that much financial gains from it, and that's enough that you can live, and that's enough that you can also do your work in a way that is looking after your well-being and it's healthy. So how do you kind of go about those sort of pricing decisions?
Well, yeah, the beginning when I was working hourly, I also had clients who would sit with me, and then tell me, move that 1, 2 pixel to the right, change that. And it was like draining, because I'm also a bit of an introvert. I don't really thrive, with having people around me and draining me, because I feel like I need to be at their disposal and I can't concentrate on my inward, life and, thoughts.
Mm.
And yeah, I that was when I was like, I need to do something that I don't have to be online. And also this kind of schedule, I don't really work well with schedules, because when I have like also like Zoom meetings, or I never have Zoom meetings with clients unless it's like really, really necessary, or the project is really big and we need that, startup call to get that confidence and trust in each other. But otherwise, things like this really set my mind to that particular event in time when I have that call, and I don't feel I'm, relaxed or free anymore to think about anything else, because I feel like I'm chained to that day and hour. So I
Mm.
try to, yeah, to find a way how I can integrate this kind of work into my lifestyle. And I realized I do better with micro gigs, as I call them. I realized I started to think in strategy, like what can I make in one day, one task only, one work related task in 3, 4, maximum 5 hours, that can bring me like $100 per hour. So like $500 per day, because I have 20 days, 20 working days, and I have $10,000. So that was like an amount for me that if I make it, it's a dream. If I still make half of it and I work 10 days, it's still like, a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how because I work easy, I have one task per day, it's easy to make my schedule around it. I don't work a specific, time zones like morning or night. I just wake up and I see when do I feel like working. Not now, but maybe later. It's okay if I skip one day and have two tasks in one day because this is really keeps me not very overwhelmed. And even if when I get bigger projects, I still, split them into micro gigs and realize, oh, this big, how much micro gigs are they going to involve? So that's how I also know how to price them.
I love that. And that also feels like it's really feminine in lots of ways in terms of allowing space for flow and not overcrowding each day. This kind of way of working is how you've always done it, or did you used to kind of juggle multiple projects at one time?
Yes, it's like something I learned on the way because at the beginning I did everything. I did logos, posters, anything, the platforms would throw at me. And but I think it's important, an important step, because that's how you realize what you like to do and what you don't like to do and what you're good at, what's your advantage, what's your edge. So I never tell people you just niche, find your thing, and you go all in with that. No, because they think you have to. I mean, also with this with illustration, a lot of advice out there is to find your style. And for me, I don't think I have find my style yet because if you look at my Upwork and Fiverr gigs, you'll see they have like different styles. I do doodle, line work, more complex, more textured, vector, 2D. I do a lot of styles because what I actually love doing is the concept behind or the storytelling, on a website to use illustration strategically. So it might seem when you stumble across a gig that, I have that style and I really own it because I have multiple examples of portfolio within that style. But overall, I don't have a specific style, but I present myself with these micro gigs like a specific style. And that's how I encourage people to think. Like make just three pieces of a style you want to, work with, but don't change yourself to that style. Just think this, I will add this to my portfolio and have only three pieces because three pieces are enough for a client to understand, your skills and your level if it's fit for their project. And and then once you nail that style, you can explore a different style and have three pieces with that style. And at some point you have like maybe four or five styles you can really master, and you can also open yourself to more opportunities because you have those kind of, and you're more flexible to what the market demands because at the moment with all this AI, all that polished work, isometric 3D is really a bit pushed to the side because people find it a bit too technological and AI. And a lot of clients are leaning on to human, hand-drawn, more, rough approach. So I start to lean in that too because I already have that a bit in my portfolio. But even though I have also polished art, I know that I can lean into this because I have a bit of pieces that I can show to clients and I can really adapt myself to the market.
Mm-hmm. And that feels really playful and like it's keeping it fresh as well because you're not just doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
That sounds
I
far more
also,
fun.
because I hated myself so for so long that I don't have a style yet, and I also thought I'm not a successful illustrator because of this, because I was thinking successful means having a style, being recognized for it, working only with big brands, having, your ad, your illustration in New York Square or something like this, going big. And then I realized that I don't really want to be out there that much. I really like, having my like a better lifestyle, having freedom, enjoying my life and also with meaningful project because I hear that a lot illustrators or artists in general they want to work on meaningful projects. And for me I realized some projects are fun and I enjoy the craft behind it, but some projects are just for the money side, and I take meaning from the fact that that project had meaning for the client. Even though I'm just in for the money, I really want to bring my best because I want to make that person's dream or business move forward because that person has a dream and a meaning behind what they do. And I try to, yeah, to get that also like meaning for myself. I don't have like to have that personal meaning, change the world all the time mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching a EFT tapping video last week. And the whole one of the biggest things about it was that you are not your work.
Yeah.
So it was all to do with you as a business person and how in the summertime lots of people can feel that either they're unsuccessful or like the summers are always slow or no one's working in the summer. And it was about just trying to change these mindsets and also think about that whilst work is important, it is not you. You are born to live and you are born for joy, not for work. So I love that you found that balance very
And I think
clearly.
this is that the most it's even more difficult for artists and creatives because we tend to take this kind of work with high regard. We see it like really special work, and it's difficult for artists to say, I'm not an artist, I just live my life. Because it's really
Mm,
it's nice to say you're an artist, you're a creative, you're an illustrator, you're a writer, and it's difficult to set aside that and not label you. And I think that has been a struggle for me to just set aside, okay, I'm not an illustrator. I mean, I might do illustration, but that's not what I'm all passionate about, because I'm passionate
I'm
about a lot
not a
of things.
single word.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I actually remember when I stopped teaching because I had always given so much weight to the label of teacher because, lots of people think like, oh, that's a really respectable job and also you're must be, quite a patient and a kind and an intelligent person if you've done this and blah blah blah. And so a lot of those things felt like an identity. And then when I stopped teaching, I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, I'm Alice. And then it's the things that you do and the things that you enjoy. And I started actively when I met people, making sure that I didn't ask the first question wasn't, what do you do for a job? Because this is also such a way that we connect with people, isn't it? So,
Yes,
like, hey, how
yes,
are you? What do you do?
yes.
Um, but actually, yeah, there's much more to us than this. Amazing. So if we think about the business thing for a little bit longer, what would you say are the crucial pillars or structures of how you set up your business so that it allows you to live this life that you want?
So I say that is this micro gig system, thinking like 1 task per day, also the flexible schedule, and financial literacy. I mean, this is really important. I started learning about how to invest my money because at one point I had one year where I made $100,000, and I was like, I made all this money and I didn't know what to do with them because I couldn't just keep them in the bank. I didn't have
Mm.
anything to spend them on because I also live like quite a minimalist kind of style. I don't spend on really expensive stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I realized that I wasn't educated in this. I mean, you start a business and you want to make money, or you're an artist, you want to make money out of your art, but then you don't know what to do with the money to to fulfill that and to satisfy to build your life. So investing is really a really big part of my business and lifestyle. I invest in stock market. I try to put money on the side, have that 6 month how do you call it, security pocket where you have the income on 6 months. So whatever happens, you're free to say no to project, to focus on something personal that can also move your business forward. So this would be
Mm.
like financial literacy, micro gigs, free schedule, and I would say also no Zoom calls. I know this might sound a bit, might seem a bit, but I try to limit calls and really rigid schedule in my business.
Yeah. Did you just say free schedule was one of the things you said?
Yes, I decide. Yeah, I think so.
What does that mean to you?
Like, it means I have 3 4 hours allocated to work per day, and I decide when I take them, and I don't feel guilty for working late at night or on weekends anymore. I just feel like my life is from Monday to Sunday, and if I feel like working on a Sunday, I will just work and won't feel guilty for doing this.
And that would be for just 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really sexy. I mean, not necessarily for me that I have had for a long time trying to make weekends sacred because I had blurred the lines of where everything was kind of seeping into every day, but I didn't have that 3 or 4 hour limit per day. It would be like, you know, minimum 6 to 10 hours a day. And so then you don't have the life at all. You're just
Yes.
working constantly. But yeah, that kind of fluidity sounds really nice because recently I've also been thinking about like breaking down the mindset of the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 and how you can kind of rewrite that um in any way that feels right to you. And I think the way that you've got it is obviously really vibing with you because your
Yeah.
business is working and you're happy in it. So that's super. We've already talked about prices. Maybe we can talk a tiny bit about, I said, how do you set up your prices and work with like return on investment in mind? But maybe you could just talk us through very briefly for somebody that doesn't have like ROI in their vocabulary, or like profits and things like this.
Yeah.
How do you think about that kind of thing within your business?
Because I don't really have, like a percentage set in stone, like this has to be the return on investment, has to be this amount. I just think like because I also know my spendings, I have like a clear spending like also like a fixed amount on on a monthly basis. I have like my accounting services, Adobe, any other services platforms. I don't have many other like I don't have inventory or stock, so just online spendings. I know how much I need to spend. So when I want to make money, I know that I have to cut that off. You also have to think of your taxation in your country and take that into account. Also be mindful that you need to increase your rates every year because also taxation usually in most countries, they start, they increase all the time. And other thing, I think at this point for me, it becomes something intuitive. I don't really start
Mm.
to think about it anymore because I've built this, yeah, micro gig. I know like $500, how much time this gig is going to take me. And I'm not only speaking about hourly, but also mental resources because usually if it's a gig I have never done before because I had this kind of a project last month. I had a mural and it had the first time I did a mural, a physical one, and I never done that before, so I wanted to ask a lot of money because one, I had to do a lot of research to educate myself on what I need to do to make that mural good. I need to hire a person to assist me. And I also, because sometimes when I ask for a lot of money, it pushes me to deliver more work. So I never do the other way around, like, deliver more work so you can be paid more. I usually try to ask for more so I can push myself to higher standards. So, not sure if I answered the question, but I think one thing people need to keep in mind is beside the hourly and the time investment, you also should take into consideration the mental. Are you going to have Zoom calls? You have to really read the client from the beginning. Is he going to be a client who is going to ask for a lot of revisions? Is the communication or brief clear from the start? And I think this is also part of the system that works for me because especially on Fiverr, I have really clear gigs and clients really understand from the beginning what's included. And if not, I really start with asking questions and making sure we are aligned so it never happens on longer in our collaboration that, oh, I didn't, what, this was not included and I need to revise this, ask that person. And I really want to know who's involved in the feedback process, also how many people are there involved, who's making the decision, because this is going to impact how much you're going to work on especially on smaller gigs where you have to be like really efficient with your time. I only do online communicate, like written communication on these smaller gigs. I don't take calls for them. So I take these things into consideration: the hours, the mental load, if it's stressful, and all this come into this return of investment. If it's the gig is going to be worth it, at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that with this, you then have the thing of, you said for your free schedule, it's that like Monday to Sunday is your week and it's 3 to 4 hours a day. And part of that, I'm sure, is also because you need time away from the work to also like reset and rest and things like this. And this is something that I think very few of us factor in to our schedule or our pricing and stuff like that. But actually, you have to be able to step away in order to fill your cup and keep doing the good work,
Yes,
isn't
actually, that's why many freelancers feel guilty for asking a lot of money because they don't really have the bigger picture in mind. They think, oh, so if a person from 9 to 5 would earn this much money per hour, then how can I ask 3 times the amount? Because you're paying for your own, social security, health insurance, your or paid vacation, everything, it's paid by you. So you think outside of, that kind of payment per hour and
it?
think
Yeah.
I mean, that if I work 3, 4 hours, I'm actually need to pay for sick days. Maybe I'm going to be sick. Who's going to cover for that? And everything needs to be in that, the amount of money you are asking for.
Yeah, definitely. That's the tricky thing though, isn't it? Is breaking yourself away from the employed mindset to the self-employed mindset. And that actually you're not just doing that skill anymore, but you're also project manager, your HR, your communications,
Yes.
your like well-being staff, your
Yes.
everything. So also to keep this in mind.
And I think if you keep
Um,
that in mind, you realize you're not being paid enough, for all the
yeah.
things you're providing. Like women do, like they do the cleaning, they take care of the children, they take care of the elders in the family. They also have a 9 to 5 job, and I'm not being paid enough for this. So this is like also for freelancer. You have to think all the characters you play, on a daily basis, and pay them fairly, all of them.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it actually, as like different characters, because when you think about all of the hats that you wear, it makes it easier to also give yourself this. I remember like in some healing work that I was doing, it was also to do with identifying kind of the thoughts in your head that make you think you're not allowed to ask for this stuff. And when I identified those thoughts, the person that I was working with then invited me to give them like a persona. So like name, if it was a person, what would their name be? And then I drew them out as well. So I made them into actual characters. And it was all to do with like either fear of being found out as not being good enough, or fear around money, or fear around taking rest. And as soon as each one had a name and like a face and a character, I could then befriend them and then like really move past these blocks that were getting in the way. So I
That's so
think,
cool. Also very
yeah,
visual. I'm also a very visual person. I mean, I would think, yeah, I really understand this visually.
yeah. And for me, I hadn't thought about this in terms of, I've always thought, your project manager, HR, communications, whatever, but I'd never thought about the fact that that has to come into the way that you price and approach your job as well. Um, and for me, that sits really nicely with what you said about one task a day and not letting all of these characters come into the room at the same time. Because also, if an office worked like that, and
Yes,
everyone was sat at the same table trying to work, it would be total chaos.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, and maybe let's come back to what you were just saying as well about being a woman and all of the tasks that we juggle in this way as well. So we were also talking about that you really work with your menstrual cycle as a kind of conscious part of how your business goes as well. So could you talk us through this?
Yeah, because I really, when I also was in burnout or I was feeling guilty that I was taking rest, or when I was not working, or I felt like, why is my brain so, slow today? Why am I dumber? Am I getting dumber? What's wrong with me? I have no freaking, yeah, juice is like, what's wrong with me? And then I stumbled across this metaphor that I really liked about our menstrual cycle really compressing like a whole year in 1 month, like the 4 seasons. And it made so much sense because winter, we're menstruating, you need like coziness, you need to take a pause, uh, you know, take care of yourself under a blanket, like metaphorically. And then spring comes and you start to be a bit more excited, and the brain fog starts to, spread, and you start to think about new project, creativity starts to kick in. And then summer like is the peak. Then I mean, for me also, I start to be more social. I want to be to do workshop, this podcast, our chat is because I'm in this phase in my menstrual cycle. I wanted to do it as fast as possible because I want to be in this, summer and peak and energy. And then the
Hmm.
autumn comes and you a bit more also start to be more inward focused and more strategic and more like a bigger picture. And that's when I will start to think about strategies or tweak my business or see, what I can improve. And this has really done a lot of, it's been amazing for my business and my life. So it's not only for my own personal health, but also my business has been thriving because I started to ask for more money because I knew I cannot work all 4 weeks of the month. So when I am working, I need to make sure I'm, being able to also pay for the other days that I'm not working. So this really changed my side. And I think mindset is like the differentiator for people who are successful. Not the craft, not the skills, not the system, not the platforms, not the tools, but the mindset. And once you start to understand that your work is valuable and you need to also, put a value on your health, on your mind, on your time away, on your vacation, on your family, and actually prioritize your lifestyle. Because at the beginning, when I started freelancing, I was prioritizing my career. That's what my top
Mm-hmm.
priority. Career, money, 9 to 5, work more, earn more. And then I realized that I'm not, getting what I wanted. That's not what I started, this in the first place. And now I start to prioritize my lifestyle. And it's really, yeah, bringing also more value for my business too, which is a bit counterintuitive. People think that if you take rest from your business, you're going to like earn less. Not on, I mean, it will happen if you let it like this. If you ask
Yeah.
for the money only when you are working, but you need to ask for the money, for the whole month or for the whole year, and take like a bigger picture in mind and a long term, kind of approach.
Yeah. I love that. That makes me feel really like golden and happy inside when I hear you. It's like really hopeful. And so when you say that you also charge in a way so that you can take time off, do you mean that you actually take time off for your bleed? Or
Yes.
is this something, yeah?
Yes, I never work because I cannot eat. I can only eat pretzels for 3 days. So how am I going to have like the no, I cannot. There's something with my body that I cannot eat. So I cannot be, physical present in my business anyway. So I learned to not fight my own, my own body. And I realized like, okay, just 3, 4 days, do nothing at all. Only if I feel like, but usually I never feel like doing anything. So I just accepted this.
Mm.
I don't feel guilty anymore or
But
yeah.
when you think about it like that, it's just 3 or 4 days in the month. That's actually really not a big deal, is it? And
Yes,
also, if you match that with your flexibility of how you're working 3 to 4 hours a day and it can be Monday to Sunday, suddenly you've actually unlocked all of this freedom of how time works for you rather than trying to fit everything into the kind of conventional hours of the week, working hours of the week.
exactly.
Yeah, cool. We're gonna move on to talk about illustration, but I think we've actually covered quite a lot of this already. But maybe you can tell us a bit about the beginning of your illustration career, like that teething time to start off with. How did you find your way, and how was that for you?
Well, at the beginning, I was doing some illustration work for a local company in my city. How do you say this? Like they were making signage for small businesses, and I was doing like
Hmm.
brochures. Then I was volunteering for a student organization, and I was doing their magazines or posters, but they were like really shitty. Now when I look over them, I'm like, oh my God.
But
But
that's
yeah,
part of the process, isn't it? That's
it was
also
a
like you
learning
said,
curve. Yeah, it was a
that you
learning
have to
curve.
try lots of different stuff and you have to just let yourself go out there rather than try to be perfect to start off with, right?
Because actually, what I realized back then is I was in this small city in in my Romanian country, and I was limited to the number of colleges in the area, and there wasn't any high profile art or design, schools. And I started I am self-taught. I started learning on YouTube, and then I realized that when I started to ask, to get gigs on freelance platforms, I was asking for very little money. Like my first gig was $1. And I realized that a lot of people were saying, don't, work for free. Don't ask for, too little money because you're going to ruin the industry and other people are going to not put value on this work anymore. But I realized that people who are going to college, they have like 4 years where they are actually paying for the chance to get that gigs that I'm actually being paid for, even if I'm being paid $1. But those people are paying for feedback, for real life projects, for briefs, because they
Mm.
have all peer validation or feedback from the professors. They have the chance to experiment a lot of techniques and styles. And I was doing this while I was being paid. So I realized don't have to feel guilty because sometimes, on these freelance platforms, there are a lot of clients who are looking for cheap labor, but also because the work is also not very skillful. I mean, I wasn't delivering any high value. I wasn't delivering any like masterpiece, poster or flyer design. It was just a basic font and photo. So I didn't put myself on a high, place that I was doing this artistic stuff and the client pays me only $5. I was really realistic with my skills, and that's why my beginning was on the freelance platforms with really low paying gigs because I didn't have the skill set. But when I stumbled upon Fiverr, which I started working like later on, I was already skillful. I had like also business mindset, pricing strategy, everything in place. And from that one, I started earning a lot of money from year one. I didn't have to spend all that time that I spent on Upwork at the beginning with low gigs and, bad clients and having a lot of projects and revisions and I didn't know, I didn't have any idea how to do that. So my advice for people is to listen to what other people are doing online, but really focus on also what their level is and implement, that advice customized to their story and their journey. Because you can come on these platforms even with low skills or high skills, and you will find the clients that will appreciate that level of skill set, no matter,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's how I started. I started because actually my first gig was a graphic design gig. It was for a poster. And when I started to take more graphic design projects, I realized I was already doing some illustration work for them because I wanted my work to be a bit more special than the other graphic designers on the platform. And I started doing my own illustrations. And then I realized I think I like illustration more than just graphic design. So I pivoted toward illustration more. And I started getting gigs for this kind of work because I also was confident that people, would pay me from my graphic design experiences. So it wasn't very difficult for me to pivot to illustration. And yeah, I mean, that's my story. I don't know what to.
Mm-hmm. And I think I saw a post from you on LinkedIn yesterday that was talking about your Cinderella story was that Upwork was the prince that
Yeah,
kind of that
yeah,
took you
because
into this life that you wanted to be living. Do you still work on Upwork now, or Upwork was the beginning and now you're on Fiverr, or are there other platforms that
no, I
you
keep
play
I keep
with?
them both. I keep them both. I find clients on both platforms because they're pretty different on how they work and how you can reach out to clients. So I have like a hybrid strategy and keep them both.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
I have no other resources for clients. I only have my clients from Fiverr and Upwork at the moment, and it's working because I really, as I told you, I'm not really a fan of complex systems, tools like schedule, calendars, payment application, or other stuff, project management, client management, onboarding, offboarding. Ugh. I mean, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So actually, these platforms really offer like a really streamlined process, and they're really separate. You know what's on Upwork, you know what's on Fiverr. The chat with the client is really clear. You don't miss any emails, you don't miss any files. The payment is clear. You don't risk not being paid because actually these platforms keep the money until every side, every part is satisfied. And once we agree, okay, delivery is final, then the payment is I don't have to chase payments. So this is also an easy part of my business. And I think the fees this platform asks for are really justified. I don't feel like they are ripping me off as a lot of people say. They do a lot of marketing on ads. They attract clients, they attract them to you, they offer this payment platform, and everything is so integrated that I don't have to do anything. I just have to set up my gigs, spend maybe one day if I have a new gig, spend it, and make the best of it, the thumbnail, the tag words and everything, and then I just let the platform do its work.
Yeah, which is actually so. This is what you were saying in your post yesterday as well, that actually this is kind of a magical part of the life, the world that we live in today. And definitely, I can't remember if it was Upwork or Fiverr that I dabbled with in the past, but it was when I was doing transcription, which is like for me was never the right job. So it was always filled with lots of different kind of uncomfortable feelings. And I
Mhm.
remember being on one of these platforms and thinking that you can only charge small amounts of money and it's people that are looking for cheap labor and blah, blah, blah. But when I saw your posts about how these platforms are working for you, it was really like an eye opener of, yeah, of course, like there is not one narrative to anything. It's all
Yes.
about your approach and how you utilize this tool because you're charging really good money on these platforms. You're getting
Yes.
paid good money and you're having successful working relationships. So I think, yeah, they should definitely, Fiverr and Upwork should be paying you for this advertisement.
I think at some point I'm going to ask some sponsorship because I'm like, yeah, a businesswoman. I
Yeah.
need to think about that. Because yeah, what I did
Um,
ask some of my clients, why did they choose Fiverr or Upwork? And most of them tell me that they didn't know other place where to look for, freelancers. And it's very difficult. I know a lot of freelancers also get money from LinkedIn on or Instagram, but a lot of business people don't really spend so much time on Instagram looking for, I mean, you have to really follow a creative on Instagram or LinkedIn to really, trust their skills.
invest in them. Yeah.
So actually, for on Upwork and Fiverr, you already have the reviews from other clients. You have credentials. Upwork and Fiverr also, how do you say they? You have to send your IDs and you're like verified. So they have all this like trust barriers already set for them. They know already that okay, this person is to be trusted. So it's easier for them to order a gig without having you to have a Zoom call, really gain their trust, or sell your gig because they're already in the mindset of buying something. So you don't have to
Yeah.
convince them that they need your service. So that's why I think a lot of people, yeah, misjudge this platform because there are clients who don't really know where else to find and they have, the money to spend and they are willing to, pay for more value. Because I had a client like really last month and I was actually asking more than they were considering like multiple illustrators on the platform. And I was actually the one who asked for the more money, of all of them. And they continued with me because it wasn't the money that was the deal breaker for them. It was the communication, the how professional I was. I was able to take their brief and connect myself with their web designer, so they don't have to do anything else. So I took that from off their mind. So that's what they need. They need someone to be sure that they know what they're doing, and you can go and have a nap and drink your coffee, and this professional will take care of your. I mean, that's why we are paying, other people to just get the mental load out of, not just a pair of hands to do stuff.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. Is there anything else? So we're going to come on to our algae mindset thing next.
Yes.
But before we do, is there anything else to do with illustration that you want to share with people in terms of like getting into it, finding your style, working with clients, like anything else from the top of your head you want to share?
I think what's a good strategy or approach is to stalk some people, around on Upwork or Fiverr, scroll and see what kind of projects the clients are putting there, what's the demand, and understand where you can fit in. What's your, what can you bring that's also in high demand? Because if you only do what you want and what you like, you might not find someone to really be willing to pay for your services. So if you go and take a look on this platform, see what that person is doing, see what that other person is doing, and you start to get a general idea of where the market really is. So
And then maybe with this as well, one more thing is that when you're doing the stalking, remember your individual identity at the same
yes.
time, because it can be very easy to then start kind of copying what other people are doing because, our brain just goes, okay, this is successful, I'm going to do the same thing, but
Yeah,
bringing
but
your own.
even if you're going to copy someone else, you're going to notice at some point that you're a bit different and some things won't work. And it will also be a learning curve. Like I did this, I copied this person, didn't work for me. So do whatever, copy, not copy. It will be a learning, curve anyway. So you're going to be at the end of the day with a valuable insight anyway.
Yeah, and I guess go in then with that open mind and curiosity to take the insight from it. So like don't just yeah, don't imitate and stop observing. Like keep observing your practice, keep observing what feels good, because also we don't want people to go into the place that you were in before of not enjoying your work because you found that you were just doing like working harder and doing more but not getting much from it. And these conversations are really about people finding their way in business that works for them.
And I think also the thing to keep in mind is that this is a long-term game. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
overnight success. It might seem easy for some people because you just met them at their high peak, like I am now. I'm like in, up somewhere like top 1% on both platforms. But that didn't happen overnight. Like more like 14 years, like 14 years of being on this platform and learning stuff and, to really reach this point.
That's a really good, I think, generous thing to remind people of as well, that it doesn't happen in a second. Um, so then let's move on to the algae. So when we were talking before, you said, or I asked you, I think something like, do you feel that you figured out business now? And you were saying about how the world is constantly changing, but you are forever flexible within this changing world. And for me, this was a real light bulb moment because I have always kind of used the mantra almost for myself that like the only consistent, certain thing in life is change. And that is liberating to a certain point. But also, if you think about what we were talking about and your beautiful image, was that yes, the world is always changing and change is certain. So you kind of think about this as like the sea, like a constant motion, but you can be within that sea a solid rock, or you can be something livid, living and fluid, kind of like algae or a seaweed or whatever. And if you take this thing that change is certain and constant and you're trying to be a rock within that water, it's going to wear you down and you're going to get eroded and you're going to stay in the same place and be fixed and everything that comes along with that. But then your thing of flexibility, like I am forever flexible, means that you can move with the tides, you can enjoy the motion. Um, and I think just find more, I don't know if like a natural way of living is the thing, but something along this. Do you have like a conscious point in time where you realized that you can be flexible to the changes of the world? Was there like a moment that for you was like, aha, this is how the world is, this is how I am within it. I am an algae creature. Like, was there a moment where that happened?
Yeah, actually, I had, I think, two moments. One when I started doing some acting, taking some acting classes, and in that year, I also started making money from acting because I acted in some commercials. And I realized, like, yeah, I didn't, because if I would have had that mentality, that you have solid background first, solid experience first before, putting yourself out there. I would just give myself permission to, be whatever I was in that moment, like the algae. Okay, now I can be an actress, I can be an illustrator, I can be a business person. And I didn't set myself goals for this. I don't have like 5-year goal, 10-year goal, because actually I know this can also help you with the long-term vision, but I think they can also, put you in kind of limited mindset somehow because you set yourself like, I just going to beat this. So it's still good to have some like a long term, but also leave room for things that happen and not yeah, block yourself, because you could say, oh, but I'm an illustrator, I need to focus on this and be the best in my industry, so I cannot spend time wiggly acting in stupid commercials and doing stuff that where is this going, what am I doing, I mean, am I going to be holiday extras? So what's the point? I didn't ask these questions. I really
Mm.
want to focus on the present. And another important moment when I got a gig on Upwork, and it paid $30,000, and I made that money in 1 month, and it really set more free time the following months. And I also realized, I don't have to have everything figured out, because things happen if you let them happen. So also because I was also in the moment where I could ask for more money, and I realized how important that mindset is, because if that client would have come to me earlier in my career, like maybe just year earlier, I would have asked for less money than that, amount.
I was
Uh,
just gonna say, did you set the price of 30,000 or that's what
yes,
they?
yes, yes, and it was like it were there were some illustration that I also worked in that month, 3-4 hours per day. It wasn't like a hustle gig that I had to or strategy or just simple illustration that were going from a for a big brand, and actually they needed full copyright, full buyout. And I realized, I'm going to go big with this. It was like I was like shaking because maybe they will say no, and I could have made 10,000. It was amazing, but I just wanted to ask 30. So I realized that, yeah, that kind of flexible, like now I can make a lot of money and then I can set myself free for not make so. I mean, I didn't set myself after that 30,000 month. Now I need to keep this momentum. I need to keep this coming because otherwise, how am I going to look successful if I cannot repeat the process? And
Yeah.
actually, that's the easiest way to burn out because, yeah, success doesn't, especially in this creative world, it's not like a constant, 9 to 5 kind of I reach hierarchy. Like I do this, I do this, and I raise and I go in a higher position. That's not how creative world works. So I think once you get that mindset, like everything has to be like this, it really frees you, from this label.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn, there's quite a few different designers that are like sharing their monthly income
Yes.
now for like transparency. And I think this is really cool to see that huge dip between month to month, where some months you're like when you said I earned 30,000 in a month, there was like a feeling in my stomach of I don't know if it was like a heaviness or a I don't know, but it just made me feel a bit like oh
Yes. Because I also had
and
I post on LinkedIn because this year I had a 10,000 month, but January was a 900 month. So I started with 900,
yeah,
and February was 920. And, okay, July was a 10,000, but it's not like a constant, 10,000 on monthly basis.
and this is again why it's so important to make sure that you're charging in a smart way for each project and each thing that you're doing, isn't it? Because there is that constant up and down, and it just gives you the space to then level everything out over the month. Because
Yeah.
again, if you're working in a normal quote unquote job, then you have the same money every month and it's split across 12 months and you have your sick leave pay and you have whatever, but you do not have that if you are doing it all for yourself. So you have to make sure that you're really covering your bases as you go along. With this, then, I think maybe we've just talked about this anyway, but I'm gonna ask this question all the same. What is, if you were gonna kind of like sum up your approach in a bow, what is your approach to like life, work, flow, change, and flexibility? Maybe the question is like, how do you keep this approach or this mindset consistent so that you can be flexible when things are changing, that you consistently have this work-life balance, and that
Um,
stuff
yeah.
doesn't feel overwhelming?
Well, and it's not possible because it's going to be overwhelming, especially when you start new things. Because now I'm starting because I've started LinkedIn, 6 months ago, and I want to delve more into other income streams, maybe content creation, maybe YouTube, maybe some digital products, and this is all new to me, and it's overwhelming. So I think it's not going to be overwhelming only when you do the same thing, all the time, and you
Mm,
start to build a system that works for you and you get comfortable, which is okay. Things can work like this. But now I'm really excited, and I feel bubbly because all these things happen around me. I feel like there are new opportunities unlocked also with AI and content creation and everything. I feel like I want to be part of the narrative and I want to, to do like I feel the same way I was feeling at the beginning with Upwork and Fiverr, where I found this like technology and platforms and global, exposure. And I was feeling excited and, curious to learn more. And that's how I feel now. And it is overwhelming. So I think what I try to keep in mind is that I need to earn a lot of money from what I know how to do well in order for me to also invest and fund these other endeavors and dreams and choices and open myself to new opportunities. And I think this is what I'm doing. I'm not labeling myself. So there's not labeling yourself, and be paying attention to the opportunities on the market, because you might be putting your energy into something that might not be relevant. And even if it's meaningful, and even if you're putting all your passion in it and on your soul, it might not, translate into something sustainable for your lifestyle in the future. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is also a more mature kind of looking at things, because I know we all want to do only personal project, passion project, meaningful work. But I think at the end of the day, we need to also keep a realistic mindset and like mature adult like, we still have to do things that we have to do. And this is okay. You have to do things that you have to do. So laundry, taxes, accountant, business strategies, you have to do them, and it's okay. You don't have to be all the time joyful. And
Hmm. I remember a period where I would get really annoyed with doing the dishes, um, because I just wanted to be doing the other stuff that felt more meaningful and purposeful. But actually, the reality is there's stuff that you just have to do, and not everything. Yeah, I just think
yeah, because I think
that
also,
reality check.
yes, and I try to, because also, when you do the dishes, you can, I know it's really, esoteric, find the meaning in doing the dishes, but I think it can be, you can take that moment for yourself and think of other things, or let your mind a bit clear of the strategies and creativity and inspiration and everything. Because
Yeah.
sometimes people think that creativity and doing artistic stuff is like this zen, state of mind, which is not. It's really consuming, it consumes a lot of resources. So for example, when I have like stairs to climb, instead of thinking, oh, stairs to climb, I'm like, oh, I can make my 10,000 steps today thanks to these stairs. And I try to keep this kind of mindset, thanks to
Yeah, definitely.
obstacle, or thanks to this, I don't know, bad thing that happened today, I managed to learn this, or this, turn into something good. So it's not always easy. I'm not always managing to keep this mindset, but it's something that I'm mindful about, and I'm trying to integrate, more in my business and lifestyle.
Yeah, cool. My question really wasn't clear, but I think that you've definitely like answered it really, really well with all of this. I think that totally makes sense for your approach. It's grateful, it's realistic, it's self-reflective, it's also giving you opportunities to learn, unwind, be human, like all of those kinds of things. So for people that are listening to this and are like, Adriana sounds freaking amazing, I want to work with her immediately. How can they find you? How can they work with you? What's all of the different ways that people can connect with you?
Well, I'm an illustrator, so I can do all of illustration. You can find me on Upwork or Fiverr, or DM me on LinkedIn. I have also a website. Actually, on my LinkedIn, you can see my links where everything's, you can find them there. And now I'm also starting to be a bit of a coaching for freelancers. So anyone who's interested on how to start on Upwork or Fiverr, or business tips in general, I'm open for consultancy on a daily basis.
And you're also interested in more speaking opportunities, podcasts, things like this.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. Maybe workshops, or yeah, podcast, speaking gigs, interviews.
So, for anyone that listens and thinks, yeah, she's a really inspiring, cool individual, you can
Call
also
me.
reach out
Call me on your
for
podcast.
this.
Have me on your.
Okay, super. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with at the end of this chat?
I think we're living the best times in our, in human history, that we can make our dream life, like we can build the life of our dreams. And there are so many opportunities out there, and I wish people would see the opportunities more than lean on the frustration and, the feeling left behind, or the victim mindset, because that's really toxic, and it's not helping anyone. And I wish people, yeah, look more on the opportunity side, because there are so many opportunities, and I'm like so excited. Also, I try to convert all my friends into freelancers, because I think in the future we're all going to be freelancers. Like, be prepared now for that, revolution.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. That's really cool. And I think a super positive message to leave everybody with as well, because it's ultimately really empowering to say, you have all of this stuff here,
And
go seek it.
especially because I'm not I mean, I'm not that special, honestly. I don't have like an illustration style so peculiar and specific and, out of this world, or I don't have anything. If I have some extra skills because I acquired them on the way, I wasn't born anything. So I think people, need to realize that everything is really easy to accomplish if you start, but it's going to be a long road. It's not easy in the terms of like timeline. It's not going to happen 1, 2, 3, or 5 years. I don't know, but uh, big things take a lot of time. But I think it's really worth it, at the end of the day. So you need, yeah, to take action.
Cool. Adriana, thank you so much for speaking with me today and sharing your insights with everybody. I mean, wasn't that just most delicious conversation ever? If you enjoyed listening to this creativity chat today, then please make sure that you like, subscribe to the channel, and share with other people that are going to benefit from this. It's little actions like this that help us spread community, and a big part of what Creative Tea Breaks is doing is just wanting to bring creative confidence to as many adults as possible. So if you know somebody that is thinking exploring a creative career that needs a little bit of a confidence boost to help them get their career working better for them, or if you just know somebody that perhaps would like to live more in sync with their cycle and their own intentions for what life should feel like, then please share this episode with them, spread the love, spread Adriana's amazing advice, and keep following Creative Tea Breaks for more content like this. Ciao!